toddler shout the glory of your name. Handmade skies, the moon and stars resounding with your fame. Much more fragile, even frail, this life song that I sing. Hesitant and stuttering, the praises that I bring. This simple life, this clumsy walk, what do you see in me? How can it be? This humble gift is all you want from me, all you want from me.
We have debunked the myth of the supermom, and we have chosen to be supernaturally natural. Even though we felt unnatural in certain tasks of parenting, we discovered the value of the rosebush mom, the boxwood mom, the pine tree mom, and the palm tree mom. And we say that each of these moms are a unique God-given design, and they are life-giving in their own way. In that unnatural moment, in that moment where you feel, I'm just not the right mom for this exact moment, is a discomfort that we have not yet addressed. That's what today's session is about. We're talking about feeling out of sync and out of season. It has everything to do with our natural design. If you can recall what Leanne was like, being ordered and perfectionist made her an ideal disciplinarian. She can set up a routine in the house. She can have a schedule and make sure everybody gets where they need to be right on time. That phase of her life will be natural for her. Then there is the rosebush mom, Megan, who doesn't mind stepping in and stepping up and sorting things out. So she'll be great at discipline, and she will even be able to stand up to a really feisty teenager and win every time, hands down. She will not find that phase as hard as it may be for another parent. Look at the peace-loving pine tree mom and imagine her heading into a fight with that same feisty teenager. She will probably come second. And that is where she will feel out of sync. I am a contrapine. That means I'm a little bit of Megan, a little bit of Leanne, and a little bit of Jessica rolled into one. What I lack, what God did not give me, was pine tree. Now, pine tree is this very nurturing mother, the one who is really slow-paced, who loves the harmony about the house. And seeing as I have nothing of that in me, the baby days was such an uncomfortable sync with me. The slow pace of everything else I could do because I had a baby honestly just got to me, and I was ashamed. I didn't want to admit that I just wanted her to grow up a little bit. I wanted her to talk to me. I wanted her to be a little bit off the hip and out of the hand, and so that I could move faster. My pace just required it. That was my out of sync experience. Every mom's out of sync experience will be slightly different. Let's have a look at what the other moms say about feeling out of season.
I'm not gonna miss the terrible twos. Not at all.
I definitely don't want to redo the baby phase.
I wish I could have the baby times again.
I am so looking forward for my kids to become independent.
Phew.
I am so glad the toddler days are over.
That phase where I need to be the strict mom.
I cannot wait to stop to tell them when to brush their teeth, when to eat, when to sleep.
I'm so glad that's over.
All those sleepless nights and really strict routine, it really did get the better of me.
I hope I've prepared my daughter enough for the decisions she'll make as an adult. I'm not ready for that.
Clearly, every mom has her own moment when she sighs or rolls her eyes and say, oh, can this just pass? Fortunately, everything will pass, and then we will miss the kids. So with our sighs and our sense of out of sync and season, we need to go to God and figure out, is this me? Do I need to adapt? Or is it okay? And can I say, I'm just not peaking yet. My time will come. Well, the answer to that will depend on what God's parenting style is, wouldn't it? Or maybe it won't. Because I don't know, is God a rosebush parent? Is he a pine tree parent? Perhaps a boxwood? Or do you think he's a palm tree? Hopefully, as you reflected on that, you said, yes, 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 yes. He's all for. Because when I read my Bible, I do see him parenting in all 4 styles. But the key word is seasons. God talks about Israel as his son. And I'm going to tell the story of Israel from just as they are led out of Egypt until they get into Canaan, and use that as an analogy of the parenting journey. Let me read to you why. It's because God really calls Israel his son, and he acts like a parent in raising them. I'm reading from Hosea 11, verse 1. When Israel was only a child, I loved him. I called out my son. I called him out of Egypt. But when others called him, he ran off and left me. But he never acknowledged my help, ever admitted that I was the one pulling his wagon, that I lifted him like a baby to my cheek, that I bent down to feed him. You can see God in this passage almost like a pine tree mom, the one who has her child attached to her hip, the one who bends down, holds those little arms, and patiently waits for the first step. So here God parents like a pine, very caring, very supportive. We see it when he leads his people out of Egypt. He acts like the coddling mom, because there is a nightlight in the form of the pillar of fire. And there's a little shade when the sun is shining, just like a mom would put a little blanket over the cot to make sure that there is no sun in her baby's eyes. Super attentive, super caring. We also experience this pine tree style of parenting when we first come to know the Lord. Maybe you can still recall being born again, if it happened in your adult life or high school years maybe. Do you remember how exceptionally sweet God was towards you, how he showed you his presence, how he took care of all of the fine details so that you could learn to trust him, so that you could see his heart towards you? This is the purpose of this parenting phase, and that is what is supposed to happen in the baby years. A baby having an ever-present parent showing up in the night and in the day with something to drink and something to eat, exactly in the way God took care of Israel in the desert. When a baby is lying in a cot crying in the middle of the night and a bottle of milk magically appears, it's almost like manna from heaven. It's the same story. It is a sign that there is someone so powerful and yet so present that you need not fear a thing. But we know that story didn't last very long, because fast forward only a few days into the desert, and God calls Moses to the mountain to give him the law. And the people were still in baby mode. They were thinking, all I need to do is lie here and scream and get what I need to eat and to drink. But it didn't quite work out that way, because this was the toddler phase, the discipline phase, the phase in which Israel had to learn that besides loving you and being there to take care of your needs, I'm also the one who's going to give you the law. And when you transgress, I'm going to give you discipline, and it's going to hurt. And we see that happening to Israel in ways that's far beyond anything I've ever done in discipline, even though I have a rosebush style. I have never opened up the earth and swallowed my kids, and I have never dumped hail on them, and I have never plagued them with snakes. But the picture that we get here is of a God who is a very firm rose. His nation absolutely have to deal with his sharp thorns. To modern parents, the idea of painful discipline is not very popular, is it? We aim for a positive type of discipline where nothing needs to be painful, but it's not entirely biblical, is it? I'm going to read from Hebrews 12, where the description of discipline is very much what I associate with a rose bush. Listen to this. This is from verse 4. In this all-out match against sin, others have suffered far worse than you, to say nothing of what Jesus went through, all that bloodshed. So don't feel sorry for yourselves. Or have you forgotten how good parents treat children, and that God regards you as His children? My dear child, don't shrug off God's discipline, but don't be crushed by it either. Yeah, I want to pause for a second. If this was positive discipline with only kind words and mildly uncomfortable circumstances or consequences, why would it say here, don't be crushed by it? No, we are talking about the kind of discipline that is so tough to carry that somebody needs reminding to not be crushed. Okay, let's continue. It's the child He loves that He disciplines. The child He embraces, He also corrects. God is educating you. That's why you must never drop out. He's treating you as dear children. This trouble you are in isn't punishment, it's training, the normal experience of children. Only irresponsible parents leave children to fend for themselves. Irresponsibility is something you can never accuse a rosebush of. They are in there and they are taking the reins. Would you prefer an irresponsible God? We respect our own parents for training and not spoiling us. So why not embrace God's training so we can truly live? Now, fast forward one verse and listen to this. At the time, discipline isn't much fun. It always feels like it's going against the grain. Later, of course, it pays off handsomely, for it's the well-trained who find themselves mature in their relationship with God. When I speak to rosebush parents, they always say, I'm training my children up for the real world. I just want my kids to be ready for a tough life. Yes, so does God. And that is when He trains us in the rosebush, almost military fashion. When He's done with that phase and Israel knows His law and they obey most of the time, they enter into the school years or the teen years, if you like, just as they are about to go into Canaan. God gives them this very strict instruction to destroy all the godless nations, but they don't. Now, there's no fire from heaven anymore. The earth doesn't swallow up anybody anymore. What happens now is natural consequences. God almost goes into the boxwood style. I've told you what I expect and now you don't. Now we're going to negotiate. Now I'm going to put a deal on the table and tell you, if you obey me and you do A, I'm going to bless you. If you disobey me and you do B, the Philistines are going to get you, because that's pretty much the story of their lives for a couple of decades of being punished for disobedience. In our lives, this is the phase where God may not put His hand into your life as firmly as He did before, but through your circumstances, He will still discipline you and train you, and you will realize it's better to obey. It is a blessed life when I obey. There is yet another phase, and this is maybe a bit of rosebush combined with a bit of pine tree, because this is where God has almost a hands-off style. Once they are in Canaan and they've chosen obedience or disobedience, they don't always get the consequences they deserve anymore. This is a bit like a child who's left your house. Perhaps he lives on his own and he decides that in spite of what you taught him, he's quite fine with his girlfriend sleeping over, spending the night, even though they're not married. You don't throw, rocks through the window. You don't take away his car. It's no longer appropriate. You are in a parenting phase where hands off is more appropriate than hands on. God does that with us too. I cannot really remember the last time God disciplined me in a tangible way. It is because we are in a friendship phase. I'm not just a slave, I'm not just a child, I'm now also a friend. It is a mature relationship in which you already know, I love you and I'll provide for you. Hashtag pine tree. You already know my law and that I mean it. Hashtag rosebush. You also know that when you obey, you will be blessed. Hashtag boxwood tree. But I'm going to step down for a little bit and say, live in friendship with me because there is joy in it. Speaking of joy, why did I not mention the palm tree parenting style? It is because that generosity, that joy, that giving runs throughout every single phase in the way God parented His people and in the way He parents us as His children. You and I can always do with a little bit of fun, with a little bit of play, with a little bit of remembering who we were as kids and making sure that our children meet that child that is hopefully still alive in each one of us. I don't have a massive palm tree in me, so I feel out of sync when my kids stand in front of me and they say, let's play, and I know it's going to require a lot of energy. For a while, when my children were young, I had to open up the drawer in the bedside table because I had a little notepad there with ideas of what one can play. Because if you told me, let's work, that was easy for me. Lots of rows and lots of boxwood. But if you told me, let's play, I needed grip notes so that I could say, oh yes, this is the game. And my favorite game was Olympic Games. And that involved me sitting like this, slouched on the end of the bed, because that's what I was like permanently at that phase. And then my son would do these wild dive rolls over my body onto the floor, and I would award gold medals and I don't know how many points and stars and Olympic scores. And the great thing was it didn't take a lot of energy, but he got so much fun out of it. Why do I tell this? I tell you this because ultimately, if I discover that I am out of sync with the phase my children are in, I am the grown-up in the room. I am the one who needs to say, okay, I don't have a lot of this tree in me, but this is the tree my child needs right now. And then I need to step up and come to the party, even if it requires some crib notes to get me there. When I did so poorly with my daughter when she was a baby, I ended up with a therapist. Not for myself, because I was not the problem in my mind at that point. My daughter was a problem. The therapist assessed her, she was about 3, and looked at me and said, you know what her behavior stems from? It's from not being sure if you want to be a mom. Do you? She couldn't have hurt me more if she put her finger in my eye. But she was right, because what was going on was that my child needed pine, and she got everything else from me. That was why she wasn't too sure if I wanted to be her mom. Under that question, do you want to be her mom, is a deeper question. Are you willing to move beyond what just comes naturally for you, for the sake of your child? And today, each of us have to say yes to that. And God is standing by, ready to give us from Himself whatever it is we are lacking in this season where we feel so out of sync. How does this work practically? Well, if you took a Tall Trees parenting profile or an Unnatural Mom profile and you have your report, the script is right there for you. Because your report will have 6 areas that point to your strengths as a mom. We call those your forces within. Your fields of greatness, those tasks in mothering that just come naturally to you and not necessarily to everybody else. Your fertilizer, the things you as your typical tree that you need to feel nurtured and to survive this journey. Then also your frostbite, those things that drain you as a mom and that makes you want to give yourself up for adoption, those. And then you have the forest fires. Those are your communication style characteristics and the way you deal with conflict. And then lastly, your fast forward. Those are the growth pointers where you need to grow beyond who you are naturally. Now, say for instance you are a pine palm tree. In your report where it talks about your forces within, those strengths that you have, it'll say things like adaptability when things don't go your way, the ability to create a safe and comfortable atmosphere for loved ones, generosity with time and affection. Okay, now reflect with me. Think about the baby days, think about toddlerhood, the teenage years, the college send-off, raising adult kids. Now let's visit these again. Which phase do you hear? Which season? adaptability when things don't go your way, the ability to create a safe and comfortable atmosphere for loved ones, generosity with time and affection. I hear baby. I also think of maybe sick kids, maybe a child who was off to college who's visiting for the first time this year. And I can just envision this pine palm mom with her fun-loving and her peace-loving nature rolled into one, preparing an absolute feast of all this child's favorites. Can you see this mom in her in-sync phase? But think for a minute how this mom would perform in a discipline scenario. Because the only phase I didn't mention here is that very intense parenting phase from preschool to, let's say, preteen. We can discover why that phase would be out of sync, or if it would be out of sync, by paging to another section in the report, and that is called frostbite. Those are those things that are really tough for this mom. The pine palm's frostbite are the following things. So I have selected just a few out of a long list. The first one is aggressive and competitive attitudes among members of your household. I see sibling rivalry among the preschoolers here. The next bullet point is being forced to discipline, correct, or punish kids. And then thirdly, family schedules filled with pressure and deadlines. I see the busy school years. So here we have the pine palm mom, and we can predict where she may feel out of sync, where she may need more support, and where she may need to take better care of herself. This mom will have to adapt. That doesn't mean becoming a boxwood or becoming a rosebush. This only means visiting the section in her report where it says, fast forward, the areas in which you as a mom can grow. Because we wrote these sections very prayerfully and thoughtfully and asked, are any of these things this mom isn't good at? Are any of those indicators that she's not going to be a godly mom in a certain season? And if they are, and if we think God would, with His grace and His compassion, sit with her and say, you are going to have to change, sweetheart, then we are going to tell her this in a report and say, you are going to have to change, sweetheart. And here are just a few things where this pine palm mom may have to put in a little bit of extra effort. Learning to set boundaries and to say no, because it will save you from burnout, which in turn protects your whole family. The thing is, even if boundaries don't come naturally for you, your task as a mom is to prepare your children to face what life will be like. And it'll always have rules. It'll always have consequences. It'll always have punishments. And your child, ill-prepared for that, will maybe one day look back and say, I wish that pine palm mom who could cook up a storm and coddle and swaddle me, I wish she had taught me to stick to the rules. The second one, have a few family rules and values pinned up in writing so that you're harder to manipulate and that you should talk less and do more. A pine palm is a pleaser. So this is a mom who is very likely to be easy to bend. Unfortunately, this grows something in your child that is not very helpful. Namely, a child who thinks, the rules are not for me, I just need to cry a little louder. My daughter is a pine tree, and when she saw that her brother cried in his room every time he couldn't get his way with me, she said, you don't cry the right way. You should cry with your face to the door. And the thing is, when you are that mom who falls for it, when the children cry with their face to the door, you're probably a pine palm mom, the one who just wants harmony and peace in your home. The thing is, the moment your kids figure out the tone of voice, the sad lyrics that go along with the tone of voice can move you, you are in trouble. The third growth area for this mom is don't use your gift of caring to step in between your children and the consequences they should learn from. Remember that adversity grows character. Just before we all go, oh yeah, no, that's not me. I don't ever pick up the stuff that they left at home and drive it to school. I don't ever step up when the teacher has beef with them. I let them be punished. Before we are too self-righteous, there's a list like this for every personality type. And this is going to be our journey. Take your report. Go to your forces within. Acknowledge what you are good at. Tell yourself, I own this phase. I'm great at the baby days. I'm good with teens. And this is why. Own your frostbite, those things that really drain you. Because here you may need to make a plan. And my husband and I are absolute opposites. He is the social committee and the festive one, maybe a little bit of a Santa Claus sometimes. So he was a little out of sync with those toddler years when it was all about routine and teaching them the end of their territory and the beginning of yours. But now that they are teens and you don't have to be as structured and you can have them stay up late a little bit every now and again, he's got it nailed. It's hard for me though. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm still battling with the fact that last night we had them watch a movie with us till past 10 and it's a weeknight. You know, I'm uncomfortable with that. This is the out of sync thing.
Wow, having kids is being part of a journey of your child's life. And you can't choose which phases or which parts you don't want. You just have to roll with it.
I would say being a boxwood mom, the earlier days were so easy when I could fix all the problems.
I do not appreciate this age where kids have to learn new things, learn how to read, learn how to spell, learn how to write.
I didn't like the the emotional needs that they had, and that I had to give of myself the whole time. It became too much at one stage.
Honestly, how many times do I still have to tell them right inside the lines?
I loved the baby phase. I loved cuddling with them. I loved kissing them.
I loved nurturing them. I loved holding them. I loved looking after them.
Currently, we are still waiting for our kids and very excited for the promises that God has given us. And it's difficult at times, but to know that God is real and that He has not forgotten about us and that He has our kids. They're real. They are a reality. I just can't see them yet.
Up until now, I really enjoyed the toddler phase because you get to play, you get to be really part of their world, and you also get all the cuddles and the hugs and the sitting on mommy's lap.
Small children never listen.
When she's sick, then I have to be at home. My whole schedule and routine has changed. I need to adjust along to that situation, and that just makes things a little difficult and a little out of sync for me and a bit uncomfortable as well.
My biggest fear was, how am I going to raise this little happy-go-lucky Pom into an adult? I felt quite out of sync. I didn't know what to do. I just thought, well, I'm not fun enough. I'm not. How am I going to teach her all the things that Poms need to know?
I made a lot of mistakes because I'm a boxwood and I'm a perfectionist. I would like to do things right, the right way. I don't even know what is the right way now.
Oh my goodness. And now I'm a grandmother and I've got my grandchildren. And now it's a good time to spoil them. I allow them certain things that I didn't allow my children.
At school, they just have to be the best at everything, and I just feel that like I can't be everywhere, and I can't be with her all the time. She doesn't need me anymore all the time, and that makes it really difficult at times.
I can remember the kisses weren't that popular anymore. The first time I saw him, after I've kissed him, he just made this and wiped his face. He wiped the kiss from his face. And I felt so sad because I'm like, I'm your mom. I'm allowed to kiss you.
Now that my kids are older, they don't want advice. They want a listening ear. And as a boxwood mom, that can be very tough.
But then I was critical, I was strict, and I would have loved to do it with more kindness, much more loving than I did it.
I can talk to them. We can have a conversation and I can explain stuff to them. And they actually listen.
I'm a little bit afraid of when they do get into the teenage phase.
And then I'll be less popular than now.
I really hope that they will still include me in their everyday being and that I won't be the mom that they shy away from.
I look forward to having someone that really needs you in their life to teach them how to be the best them that they can be, to bring out the goodness that God has put in their lives. And I don't want to be a mom that has my own picture of what my child must be, but I really want to be that mom who says, what do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And I will use anything and everything that I have to help you accomplish that. I want my child to know that I will believe in their dreams, no matter how crazy they might seem. They'll be right next to mine.
When you're out of sync and out of season feeling, is actually the Holy Spirit convicting you that you may have been selfish, you may have not stepped up to the plate, may not have taken as much responsibility for what your child needs as you should have, then God is ready to forgive you. You can admit it and you can start over. And I want to read that to you from Isaiah 14, from verse 4. I will heal their waywardness. I will love them lavishly. My anger is played out. I will make a fresh start with Israel. He'll burst into bloom like a crocus in the spring. He'll put down deep oak tree roots, and he'll become a forest of oaks. He'll become splendid like a giant sequoia. His fragrance like a grove of cedars. Those who live near him will be blessed by him, be blessed and prosper like golden grain. Everyone will be talking about them, spreading their fame as the vintage children of God. Ephraim is finished with gods that are no gods. From now on, I'm the one who answers and satisfies him. I am like a luxuriant fruit tree. Everything you need is to be found in me. Here is such a key for us when we look back and we feel, I've missed my cue. My peak season was toddlerhood, and I didn't do what I should have. I didn't even do what I do well. I cannot go back. I cannot go fix it. Here is a word for us. God can be everything we ever need. I love the scripture in Joel that says he can give back the years that the locust has eaten. If you are sitting here thinking, oh, we have been eaten. We have been eaten for years. We have lost a lot. Please do not believe the lie. God can absolutely restore those years. And whether it was nurturing or discipline or letting go that you didn't do in the right season, he can give you another opportunity to do that. And my prayer is that you will run to him and allow him to step into your household and make up for that season. He is the ultimate evergreen tree.
We will serve the Lord with all our days. We'll always seek his face. We will worship now